Welcome back to our second episode of Hippo podcast. Today we're exploring a major topic from chapter 4 of Gangarine's philosophical foundation. Why something must be eternal and why the idea that being can come from non-being is impossible.
Yeah, because people often say the universe might have come from nothing, or maybe it created itself, or maybe things just happen randomly.
But chapter 4 says we must start with reason. If something exists now, like us sitting here doing this podcast, then something must have always existed. Non-being can't be the cause of anything, not even a grain of dust.
Gangarine lays out the reasoning like this. Contradictory statements cannot both be true at the same time and in the same respect. The contradiction of some is eternal as none is eternal. If we say none is eternal, then all is temporal, all had a beginning, all came into being. If all came into being, then being came from non-being. Being from non-being is not possible. Therefore, the original statement none is eternal is not possible. Therefore, its contradiction some is eternal must be true.
So the argument is like saying if you find a lit candle in a locked room, something must have lit it. You can't say it lit itself out of nothing.
Exactly, and people still try to find ways around this conclusion, which leads to the mistakes Gangarian describes.
The attempt that people take is to redefine nothing. People say that the universe came from nothing, but their idea of nothing usually includes laws or quantum energy.
Some say the universe caused itself, but that's like saying my phone charged itself before it existed. It's not just unlikely, it's logically impossible.
The third attempt is chance. People say the universe came by chance, but chance is not a thing. For example, if you flip a coin, chance doesn't push the coin, physics does. Chance has no power, so it cannot cause the universe.
And also, some simply say, well, maybe being did come from non-being. But that would be like saying 2 plus 2 is 5 whenever we feel like it. Once you allow contradiction, reason collapses, and with it, all knowledge also.
So, chapter 4 concludes that something eternal must exist, and this matters personally. If reality has necessary foundation, then life isn't random or meaningless. There is structure, order, and logic behind everything.
That gives a different view of life. Instead of thinking everything is an accident, we see that reality has to rest on something solid and necessary.
Right, and this doesn't require tradition or religion. It comes purely from reason.
And it prepares us for chapter 5, where the question becomes, what is this eternal reality like?
Chapter 5 challenges material monism, the belief that only matter is real and that mind, logic, and meaning is reduced to physical processes.
Material monism sounds simple. Everything is atoms, energy, and physical laws. We see matter every day. Chairs, phone, fruit. It feels natural to think matter is all there is.
But chapter 5 shows a huge problem. Matter cannot explain a reason. For example, the thoughts cannot be known. It doesn't weigh anything. It doesn't have a shape. It isn't a chemical, but it's universally binding.
Exactly. If you're reasoning only molecules firing, then your thoughts are just accidents of chemistry. But we rely on reason to solve math problems, write essays, and even record this podcast. We trust reason because it points to objective truth, not just physical reactions in our brains.
Yeah, when I solve a math equation, I don't think my neurons luckily fired in the right order. I think this is true for everyone.
There's 4 arguments against material monism. First argument is that if our thinking is only brain chemistry, then we have no reason to trust our conclusions. That would be like trusting a calculator that randomly glitches. Second, argument from universals. Universal truths like 2 plus 2 equals to 4 do not depend on the physical world. Even if every calculator breaks, 2 plus 2 will still equal 4. Argument from consciousness. Experiences like pain, joy, or the color blue are not physical objects. You can scan the brain, but you can't find sadness as a thing with weights. Fourth argument from causality. Matter is always changing and dependent. A phone needs charging, a tree needs sunlight. Everything material relies on something else. So matter alone cannot be the eternal foundation.
So how would you explain this to a materialist friend?
I'd ask, why trust your belief in material monism if that belief is just neuron firing? If thoughts are only chemistry, then truth becomes chemistry too, which doesn't make sense.
And I'd add, logical laws don't depend on brains. They were there before anyone existed. For example, the law of non-contradiction was true before humans learned it.
That takes us into spiritual monism, another worldview Gangerian critiques. It says everything is really one spiritual reality.
Like saying all differences are illusions. People, animals, objects, all one thing?
Exactly. This shows up in some Eastern religious or New Age ideas where everything is one infinite mind or one cosmic energy.
Spiritual monism claims that all of reality is one spiritual or mental substance and all of our physical world is illusions. Examples include Advaita Vedanta, which claims that everything is Brahman, and Yogacara Buddhism, which claims that everything is consciousness.
Gangerian gives several problems. First, problem of illusion. If everything is one, who is being fooled? An illusion requires a real difference between the subject and the object. If you think you see a snake but it's a rope, there is you and a rope. Pure honest can't explain this. Second, problem of diversity. Look around. We see real differences, you, me, the microphone, the table. Spiritual monism must call these illusions, but that contradicts our experience. Third, problem of change. When you grow, learn, or forget something, that's real change. But a single unchanging spiritual reality can't explain real growth or real dependence.
So if everything is one, it becomes impossible to explain everyday life, differences, choices, even mistakes.
Exactly. Gangerian says that a worldview must explain reality without contradiction. Spiritual monism collapses because it denies the distinctions that reason and experience depend on.
Thank you for joining us on Hippo Podcast.